Happy Monday. We are moving Mondays in English. I'm immigration attorney Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. I'm here in the the conversations that you're having. Some of it's real, some of it's not real, some of it's irreal, some of it's interpretation. This is all dealing with really complex information. So to go for attention with humans. And sometimes you don't need to pay close attention. Sometimes as much. And so the goal of this show is for me to digest all the news of the week, and there's always been plenty since we started the show, and to help you understand what's critical and relevant for you. So that's why we're here. I'm also obviously live and available to answer your questions about your immigration cases or about policy things or just your thoughts and how you're feeling. And a big part of what we're doing here together is civic engagement and pushing back against the Trump and preparing for the midterms and talking about how to become more engaged civically and politically in some creative way. So we always end the show with an action tip. And I appreciate you guys being here with me. Feel free to share this with anyone that you think would want to know about it. We are on all the platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And again, we do this entire show in Spanish, same content on Thursdays. So if you prefer Spanish, no los jueves. So a reminder about who I am in case you're new to me. My name is Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. I am an immigration lawyer of 20 years based in Austin, Texas. My entire career has been focused on keeping immigrant families together, bringing immigrant families together, and keeping immigrants out of detention. So needless to say, the work has been hard and heavy as of late. And on that note, I'll get started with the news of the week. The first news item I'll talk about is my client, little Liam, and his dad, Victor. So if you've been watching news or on socials, you might have seen that a week ago, Sunday, the night before or the day before little Liam, who's 5, was set to start kindergarten, he begged his dad, Victor, to take him to a soccer game. Victor was actually kind of like, it's Sunday, let's stay home, let's just relax. But little Liam really wanted to get out and go play soccer. And so his dad took him to play soccer with his uncle and his cousin. And there was an ICE enforcement action going on around the area where they were. They were pulled over by ICE agents who did not even bother to make a pretext for the stop. They didn't even pretend that there was an issue like speeding or tinted windows, which is what usually happens in these traffic stops, like with DPS. They'll list some very minor reason for having pulled the people over. In this instance, it was ICE. They did not even have a pretext, and they just rolled down the window and immediately wanted to know what Victor's status was. He was honest with them and told them he was undocumented, and their reaction to that was to cuff him next to his 5-year-old son and put him in the back of the police vehicle and drive him to the ICE processing center, cuffed the whole time. And Victor talks about that ride. Just imagine, any of you who are parents, imagine what that would feel like, being handcuffed and detained with your child who is obviously freaking out and trying to comfort them, but not even have your arms available to you to tuck them in because they're freaking handcuffed behind your back. It's so unacceptable. And because it was videoed, again, I'll remind everybody how important it is to become good witnesses and video these things. Because it was videoed, it has gone viral on the media, and we have had congressional intervention from Greg Casar, from Joaquin Castro, who have been, both of them, incredible in their fight against immigrant detention, especially in this administration. They have both gone to visit Liam and his family, and I've been working on the case, which is a complicated one because of our immigration system. And what I want to say is that DHS is putting out statements about this case, claiming that they gave Victor the chance to have Liam released to Liam's mother, who I can confirm is desperate to have her 5-year-old back in her arms. They never gave them that chance. In fact, they coerced Victor to sign documents without having reviewed them with an attorney. And they have never once given the opportunity for Liam to be released with his mother. And ICE will tell you in their public statements that parents are able to choose what happens to their children when they get detained. It is a lie. That is not true. That has not occurred in this case, and it doesn't occur in other cases. People like Victor are detained with their children, and they're having to make torturous choices about what to do with their future because there are so many concerns about what is this government that is so unjust going to do with my 5-year-old child. Things like, are they going to pursue charges against me for being undocumented and put my 5-year-old in unaccompanied migrant custody so that he becomes lost in a foster care system? That happens. That happens, and these are the choices that parents are having to make. And so the behind the scenes of this case is as awful as the in front of the scenes, as the scene. What you are not seeing is worse than what you've seen. And it is enraging to be up close to these cases and these families and to see what it's like. I shared a video with you that night after I went to the visit with the little Leah, and just the silence, shock and the silence of a house that has an important part of their family just disappeared on them. It's something that's really hard to put words to and express. And it's something that I hope most of the people watching will never have to experience, even the ones who are supportive of these actions. Even you, I hope you don't have to ever experience anything like this because it is pure torture. So I'm going to keep you guys posted on this case, but keep sharing it if you see it come up. Share it, reach out. Family does have a GoFundMe, which I have shared on my social media and I'll continue to do so. And donate to organizations that are helping families like the ACLU doing important litigation, Texas ILC, Vicina, the organization that I've talked about, does a lot of pro bono work, training lawyers to take pro bono cases. So there's a lot of organizations out there that are doing important work that could use your support right now. Let's keep going on the news, and it's all just heads up. It's not, none of it's makes you feel better. So the first news item, this is from The Guardian. This is a news source that we trust. As an aside, I will just say, last week I did a show with Melissa Dalton Bradford, who is coming out with a book entitled "How to Save Democracy: The Anti-Authoritarian Playbook," and we talked through all the steps and items, pieces of evidence that you are in an authoritarian descent. And of course, one of them is an attack on the press or taking over of press entities and putting out untrue statements. And so one of the things that we need to be doing as a pushback is to being really having good media hygiene, meaning knowing your source and whether it's trustworthy. So anytime you see a headline, anytime you see an article, look at which media outlet is putting this out, and is this an outlet that you trust? Another thing I want to say about spending money on media is, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I hit a paywall, I'm like, ugh, fucking paywall, and then you're like, for some reason, there's like this, like, I'm not going to spend money on that. That feels frivolous as a spend. Do you feel that way sometimes? I feel that way sometimes. Even though like a lot of it's even my job, like it could even be a business expense, right? Sometimes I still hit that feeling. And then, or you like subscribe and then you forget your login, but that's a whole other problem. Anyway, I just want to invite everyone, and myself included, to stop thinking of paywalls and subscriptions to media as a frivolous spend. That is standing up for democracy. That is standing up against authoritarianism, is the citizenry supporting the free press. And how do you support the free press? You pay for a subscription. So just like the next few times you hit a paywall, if it's at a source you trust, maybe just sign up. It's usually not very expensive, but just start thinking about maybe this is part of my personal budget that I'm gonna just like allow myself to spend and not feel like it's wasteful. Okay, so this is The Guardian, and this is about the body cam footage. So you will recall that we had 2 ICE murders last month, Lorenzo Salgado Arrajo and Joan, anybody remember Joan's last name? Guerrero, thank you, up in Maine. Both of these men were murdered by ICE agents. They were shot. And in both events, of course, ICE claimed that they were, misbehaving, weaponizing their vehicle, whatever the playbook is. Neither of these incidents contained body cam footage. Okay. But it should have, because part of the congressional funding package called for body cam provision to ICE agents out on the streets, and they weren't wearing them. And so there has been some blowback from that, understandably. And so ICE is now saying, okay, we're going to provide the body cams, but we're not going to reveal the body cam footage. Wait, hold on. Unless it is in the best interest of the agency. This is actually what they put in their statement. They're not going to reveal the body cam footage unless it is in the best interest of the agency. Do you hear this? This is footage that we, the taxpayers, have paid for. We have paid for the body cam footage. We are owed the body cam footage when there is an incident, regardless of whether some wackadoo in the agency believes that it is in their best interest. That is irrelevant. Irrelevant. So this is very concerning. This is $30 million of taxpayer money that is paid for these body cameras, which we may or may not even have access to the footage. Next, the electric shock gloves. This is another $20 million that the agency is going to be spending for ICE agents to wear essentially tasers on their hands. So they are going to have gloves that they can wear so they can literally just corral and shock people into compliance. And who knows who they're going to be using these on. I feel pretty confident they're going to strap these gloves on and head to some protests and use them on people for sure. This was published in August, so just this month, and the devices are to be delivered next March 2027. This was reported by CNN. Next, reported by the New York Times. This is about another death in a facility called Delaney Hall, which is up in New Jersey, excuse me. This is another one of these for-profit private prisons that detains immigrants and is notorious for terrible food and medical treatment. Like it's been reported that they conduct health inspection checks, and there was one facility, I'm pretty sure it was Delaney Hall, where the potato salad was 81 degrees. And people were getting sick and they were using, dirty utensils. And they were like, everybody's getting food poisoning. I wonder why in this facility. And people are dying. In Delaney Hall, we've had the 3rd death. This is a Guatemalan man. His name is Jose Chacon Raxon. He's the 3rd immigrant to have died at Delaney Hall. And he died at the hospital after his release, which is now not counted as a death by ICE. This is a that they decided that as long as somebody got released and then died, we're not counting that as a death on our watch. Where and now, obviously, if somebody is gravely ill, they will just be releasing them so that they can die, not on ICE's watch, which is what happened with Jose. Next item from New Republic is this is about a Mississippi ICE facility, which is called the Adams County Correctional Facility. This is run by the private prison contracting company CoreCivic. CoreCivic and the GEO Group are the two biggest facilities. And there was a power outage in 100-degree heat. There were gas leak smells that the detainees smelled, and they were getting sick, and they were getting headaches and having nausea. And in this um, article reports that all of these detainees were sent outside in the sun, in over 100-degree heat without shade for several hours, and many of them fell ill and were denied medical care due to their dehydration or sunstroke. And then DHS's statement was that they didn't really actually smell any gas, but just, in actions of caution, they had the people, what are they called? Maintenance people come out and check it. So they just basically, anytime you see a DHS statement, just assume it is a lie. Meanwhile, reported by Scripps, Civic Group had their second quarter earnings reports last week. It was the most successful period of business wins in the company's history, says George Zoli, the chairman and CEO of the GEO Group, during a call with investors. The GEO Group reported a 15% increase in revenue in the second quarter, largely attributed to contracts with ICE to house immigrants at detention centers. CoreCivic, which also runs detention centers, saw a 27% jump in revenue, and together the two companies posted more than $1 billion in earnings in the quarter. This is a multi-billion dollar industry. And what happens when people are earning billions in industry? They hire lobbyists, and they get into Washington, and they influence lawmakers. And so what can you do about this? Check your portfolios. To the extent you have any stocks or 401ks or savings, make sure you're not invested in CoreCivic or the GEO Group. And as always, this is a call your legislator. It is, I don't even know the word. I don't even have a strong enough word when you think about stories like Liam, like I told you about, like little children on the night before kindergarten being detained, people dying in detention. Meanwhile, these earning calls are celebrating their $1 billion of earnings. That is like legit the world we're living in, and somehow seems acceptable to some people. And I did a video on this. This was an article by Forbes that just sort of like was a roundup of all of the Trump policies, and just sort of going down by one the evidence that really what the Trump administration is after is legal immigration. So they're not as you know, they're not going after criminals and drug dealers and rapists, because all the undocumented people that have been picked up, the vast majority have no criminal history whatsoever. But also the thing that we know to be true is that legal immigration has been under attack in every way since the second administration started. Starting on day one with the attempted cancellation at birthright citizenship, the arrest of student protesters, Palestinian protesters who were green card holders, the revocation of student visa holders, the $100,000 H-1B visa fee, the 93 country cancellation, the revocation of TPS of every country that has come before it, the cancellation of family reunification, parole, the delay of DACA work permits so that dreamers are losing their status, the detention of asylum seekers and people who have adjustments of status pending at the airports. Everywhere you look, the people being targeted by the Trump administration are in a legal immigration process. So if there's anybody out there who still believes themselves to be a person of open-mindedness to diversity and the idea that our country is a country of immigrants, but you're not yet convinced that what the Trump administration is doing is attacking that ideal, this is your moment. You can no longer ignore it. You really, really can't ignore it anymore. And this is an article that I would encourage you, if you are a person that's like, yeah, Kate, I watch your show, I know. Go ahead and look for this article, and I'll repost it. It's a Forbes article. And I don't know if this is the headline, Trump officials now restricting all legal immigration categories, but I thought this was a really good one. It's like short, not super long, not super technical, but really thorough in the way that it breaks down everything that I just told you. And this would be a really good one to send to, your Uncle Larry, who is bullheaded and doesn't believe it. And this is just the example of that, because Larry's probably not going to watch my show. It's like 30 minutes of stuff he doesn't want to hear. So, and then we don't have a ton of good news to share, but I will say that San Diego County is not letting ICE use its local firing ranges to train anymore. So that's good. There's that. We like to see like little thises and that's in terms of pushback. And also it was kind of fun this morning. I was driving my teenager to school, and there was an ICE truck, and we took a picture flipping off the ICE truck. So like literally has no impact, but feels a little bit better to just, have these minor moments. So let's start getting to your questions, guys. Let me see. I had you pulled up here. Here you are. Okay, Anthony. I got a good question. Got divorced in San Antonio. In the decree, we weren't to reside outside the county. It's been 7 years and my son is out of state. We have joint custody. What do I do? So this is a family law question. I'm not a divorce lawyer, so we're out of my realm of expertise, but I will say most divorce decrees or, custody decrees do limit geographic distance that the child can reside. And so if your spouse is taking your child outside of that distance that was listed in your decree, you should talk to a lawyer about that. Anthony, I've missed 8 years of his life. I'm so sorry. And he turned 16 tomorrow in Utah. Talk to a lawyer about it. 16, he's old now. He's can probably make his own decisions. And so it becomes more of a relationship question than a legal question at some point in that child's life, right? And so how do you navigate that? That might be a question for a therapist, but he's still a minor, and so you could still talk to a lawyer and see if there's something that you can do about that. Guerra's photography. What can a citizen who is family with a child do? Like in a situation like this, can a parent give any kind of power of attorney? Yes. Okay. So, and we have a lot of materials on my resources website, which is abogadakate.com. And we have safety planning packets that have caregiver authorizations for the children. We have asset protection documents. We have pet protection documents. But basically, if a parent is a U.S. citizen, they don't need to do one of these forms, because a U.S. citizen is not going to be arrested by immigration. But if you are an immigrant, green card holder, maybe not so much. Maybe you don't really need to. But if you're anything else, like work permit, DACA, TPS, pending asylum, something, waiting on immigration, undocumented, definitely, please, the number one non-negotiable from my perspective is that you complete a caregiver authorization, and you decide what happens to your child should you get detained and who is in charge of that child. Because if you don't do that, you leave it up to the federal government to make that decision for you. I don't know about you, but I'm not leaving anything up to the federal government that I have power to not leave up to them in my life. Carlos says, ¿cuánto dura en llegar permiso de trabajo después de ir a huellas por VAWA? Estoy pensando, en el último caso que recuerdo fue meses, como 6 meses más de espera. Entonces hay una demora ahora entre las huellas y el permiso de trabajo, pero cada caso es diferente. Any new update on advanced parole? No. Not yet. We have the court case from the BIA. Let me see if they've appealed that to the 11th Circuit. That was what we were waiting for, to see if they were going to appeal that. Yeah, we don't see any appeals pending yet. So what we're talking about, this was from August 13th, matter of Del Carmen Lara. The Board of Immigration Appeals, which is over all the immigration court systems, said that departure on advance parole triggers unlawful presence bars. This is mostly relevant for like dreamers who are planning to leave and come back legally and then adjust status to get a green card. It should only apply in court cases, so it should only apply to a limited number of people, but it's an indication of the mentality of the administration. So when you see a case decision like this in the BIA, it does often bleed over into decisions at USCIS. Even though technically the BIA doesn't have authority over USCIS, we do often see them interpreting BIA decisions or applying BIA decisions on the other agency side. So what we're hoping for is that this decision gets appealed to the 11th Circuit, which is over the Florida area, and then it gets blocked or enjoined. But so far nothing has been filed, which isn't odd. It's been 11 days since the decision occurred, so nothing yet. Can a mother lose her tourist visa after giving birth in the United States? Yes. That has always been true, by the way. This is not like a new, oh, we're battling birth tourism, blah, blah, blah. This is the thing that I keep saying. Like, it has been true for a very long time that super pregnant women coming in on tourist visas will get turned away. So Greg Abbott and Trump would have you, and Stephen Miller would have you believe that there's like, there's like new droves of pregnant women coming in to give birth to babies who are going to like crawl to the voting booths. But that is not true. That does not occur. Do immigrants sometimes come in and start families? Yes. But do tourists come in for the purpose of giving birth and then leave right away? That just really doesn't happen on a large scale because it's really hard to get in as a pregnant person. And so to your question about can somebody lose their visa, I have actually seen, and not during the Trump administration, I've seen people's visas get revoked when they came in and had a birth of a child on a temporary visa. Yeah, that happens. Hola, this is Spanish. Hola, tengo a mi novio en ICE. El lunes pasado fue arrestado por ICE, pero él ya tiene un caso por matrimonio. Tati, mándame un mensaje directo y podemos programar una consulta. Estamos tomando casos de personas detenidas dependiendo en dónde está detenido. Si no, podemos dar una referencia a otro abogado que puede tomar el caso. What happens if a woman with a tourist visa is detained or questioned by immigration officials? Well, it depends. If this woman is in a valid tourist visa stay, time of stay, and she's not in violation, she's not working, she hasn't gotten a Texas driver's license, she hasn't filed for a green card, sort of like all of the things that will upset the Trump immigration gods, then she should just be released because she's here under a valid stay. That should not be somebody who gets detained. I would not recommend on a tourist visa necessarily doing a whole bunch of like risky travel. If you've come in to Miami and you're going to Disney World and that's what you've declared, you might get flagged if you fly to like Wichita. They might be like, you said you were going to Disney. What are you doing going to Wichita? So I think you want to be thoughtful about what you're doing because there is so much oversight on our movements now that this is a new world. We are living in the world of 1984 where everything is tracked and monitored. There are hundreds of cameras out on the streets that scan your license plate and tell Palantir where you are going and when, and what your routines and your patterns are. And all of that is uploaded into this database that has Department of Public Safety, Social Security, the Child Support Registry, like all of this stuff is conglomerated now, and it is at the press of a button by federal police officials. And so it is not an era in which you can go about undetected in your life. And you just need to consider that. I mean, what do we do about that? We change the freaking administration. We get out of this quasi-dictatorship that we're headed toward. And how do we do that? We, fight like hell leading up to these midterms. And this is our moment. It's August 24th. We got a few months left. We got a good solid quarter ahead of us before these midterms happen. So if you've been in the, I can't take it anymore, I'm going to just take a break camp, time to come home from summer camp and just open your eyes and start taking some action, because this is the moment. And I know they say it all the time, but it is so true. If you find yourself, or you have found yourself during your lifetime wondering who you would have been or what you would have done during a time of human rights abuses like slavery, like the Holocaust, here we are. This is that moment in your lifetime, in your generation. And so if you've asked yourself that question, this is the answer. It's time to take action and wake up and be loud. Let's get to the action item of the week. I already mentioned this, but the private prison companies are earning billions on the detention of children and migrants and the deaths of these people. And if you have an investment portfolio or a 401k, time to go ahead and check and make sure you are divested from anything that touches immigration, or really probably prisons, private prisons altogether. Just don't invest in those. GEO Group and CoreCivic. And then I'm starting to get some invitations to rallies about the midterms to come and speak and sing. People are starting to activate around that. So go join a thing. Prepare, plan an event, start thinking about what's coming up. It's starting to happen, right? Everybody's like, okay, summer's done. Let's start getting to work. And so let's do it. And I'll see you guys at all these events. I'll see you here on the show next Monday at 11. And this Thursday, there's going to be a press release or press conference on Liam on Thursday. So timing is TBD on Thursday, but I will see you on Thursday. Thanks for being here with me. And please share this to anybody you think needs to know. And that Forbes article about legal immigration being under attack with anybody that you think needs to understand the reality of Trump's immigration policies.